everybody and welcome to Damme Reviews. Today's video we're doing more Van Damme, and I've recently rewatched it with my friend. He picked up the 4K transfer, I picked up the Warner Brothers lineup of Time Cop, and we decided, you know what, let's go through his movies, let's go deep dive into all of his movies. We watched Replica and Knockoff recently. We really enjoyed both those movies for different reasons, and we're hoping for some more similar results and kind of seeing an evolution to kind of his lineup in his career and kind of see what his movies have to offer. So let's talk about Universal Soldier.
Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dolph Lundgren. Universal Soldier.
Universal Soldier, released in 1992 in cinemas, is directed by Roland Emmerich, which is known for being the big summer blockbuster, the big disaster kind of filmmaker, the guy who's made loads of movies out of his entire career, loads of which I own. Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle. Some I actually really like is Stargate, of course, Independence Day, and Day After Tomorrow. Roland Emmerich at the time during the 90s was absolutely his peak, with making some fantastic big blockbuster movies that were making big profits, big returns. He was the go-to guy for the big summer blockbuster experience. Dolph Lundgren was coming off the success of Rocky IV and all of his movies. He was at the peak of his career, and so was Van Damme. After making loads of kind of independent movies in terms of Hong Kong and going various places, he was getting the more spotlight, he was getting more offers with big studios and big directors, and it makes sense that all three of these people will come together at the absolute peak of their career to make a really over-the-top and 90s kick-ass kind of, you know, two of the greats going at each other. Universal Soldier storyline is a very 90s, very over-the-top kind of corny idea. It follows Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren, both Vietnam soldiers. Dolph Lundgren's character goes absolutely insane. He's a commander that starts ripping off ears, starts killing his own troops, civilians, and Van Damme, of course, has to stop him. They end up killing each other in the kind of a crossfire. It cuts to about 15 years later, I believe, and they're both kind of soldiers in this kind of experimental program called the Universal Soldier Program, which takes soldiers back from Vietnam, puts them in a kind of reanimation type form, and kind of gives them kind of a control in a sense. You know, lose their memory. They're very controllable, very suggestible to kind of black ops missions. They're kind of sent out to do very specific, dangerous missions that the usual soldiers wouldn't do. These are all kind of soldiers from war that are disposable, very highly confidential, and they can be shot, they can be injured or potentially killed and brought back to life for reanimation. And that's where the kind of storyline goes, and as you would expect, it goes wrong, and they start to remember who they are and the kind of the basic instinct of who they are. Van Damme being this kind of like savior, this kind of soldier that wants to save and help people, and Dolph Lundgren being this very sick, sadistic kind of maniac that has a controlled urge to kill people. And of course it goes wrong. A reporter gets involved, starts to see the kind of program itself, sees things that she shouldn't have, and kind of Van Damme and this reporter goes on the run. This film's the most quintessential, most recognizable Van Damme movie of his entire career. Universal Soldiers, everyone knows what Universal Soldiers is. My friend picked up the 4K transfer, the new 4K disc, and it's the first time him watching it. And after we finished watching the movie, surprisingly, we came out quite disappointed. This film didn't quite live up to what the film was and its kind of reputation was, and you know, this is coming from a fresh perspective. I haven't seen this film in years. First time him watching it as well. And out of all the ones we've watched with Replica, Knockoff, and even Time Cop, this film didn't deliver on its premise, on its characters, on its action. And we were trying to calculate and trying to figure out why that was. The film was missing a wow factor. Now, that wow factor was 1, characters and heart, and 2, strong kind of, you know, escalation, very strong action escalation, plot points. This is a 2-hour film, and it kind of repeats itself every half an hour. And what I mean by that is that you've got Van Damme, and he's a character that was a kind of, you don't know much about him. You know, he's a Vietnam soldier. You know, he kind of went against kind of Dolph Lundgren for his commanding officer, going crazy, and has a brief statement on the Vietnam War. But it never really goes too much else into that. He doesn't really have much of a statement, doesn't have much about the ideas of war itself. He doesn't dive into any of those kind of themes, those ideas about being a soldier and, you know, coming back to life after 15 years and kind of seeing the world what it is now. And now I'm fully aware this is a 90s cheesy over-the-top movie about reanimated soldiers. I'm not expecting a masterpiece or kind of Shakespeare, but what I'm expecting is a competent, fun, entertaining film. The elements right there, has all the ingredients right there to make a really fun, rememberable, action-based movie. But what it decides to do instead is kind of be a little bit too serious in all the wrong places. Now, from what I've seen of Van Damme so far of his movies, especially Knockoff, he is a good kind of comedic kind of presence. He's a very funny. You know, he's a good fighter, he's a good Amphlett fighter as well. He can really add a really likeable, fun character while being kick-ass at the same time. And this film doesn't really utilise those strengths of his. Now, I'm fully aware that the character is meant to be like a Vietnam soldier. He's someone we don't really know at the beginning of the film, apart from a couple of scenes here and there, which there is some nice comedic timing with the reporter, kind of side love interest in the sense. They don't really do any much more than that. You don't really know who he is as a person. You don't know as a character he is. You know, you get a brief kind of quick scene at the start with him being a Vietnam soldier. You know, he's kind of got that moral kind of compass with standing up against the corporal, Dolph Lundgren's character, and obviously, when it comes to 15 years later, he kind of was starting to remember who he is, like the same with Dolph Lundgren. But apart from that, you don't really know who this character is or who he's supposed to be. He's still the same dormant person, you know, person that's trying to figure out how to eat, how to sleep, how to do these basic things that we take for granted. And we don't see an evolution to his character. He's the same person that he was at the start of the film, or that he's at the end of the film. And that's where the film fails to me. It kind of does this one-note kind of characters and kind of plays it for the entire film. It doesn't escalate the character's kind of journey more, even though it has the beats of it, with them kind of exploring who he is, how he wants to eat, how he wants to interact with people, him going back to the farm towards the end, with his parents, him trying to track down the scientist that kind of reanimated his bodies back in the late 70s kind of thing. There's a lot of potential right there. There's a lot of plot points, beats that could work really well to really escalate him as a performer. Loses that wow factor, loses that charm, and you start to get, what else has this film got to offer me? What else is this film going to do to kind of raise the stakes a little? And being the film doesn't push the characters further in terms of their journey, in terms of their evolution, it doesn't push the action either as well. And while the action itself is really well nice, it's really well, it looks good on screen with the 4K, there's some nice good set pieces, but that's what they feel like, set pieces. They feel like, hey look, here's an idea, let's film it, and we'll do the other scenes as a side thing. You know, it doesn't feel connected to each other. There's no escalation in terms of the drama, in terms of the action, in terms of back and forth. It just kind of plays it straight. Here's storyboard this, storyboard that, scene this, scene that, and that's where the film kind of lies. Well, I felt like most of the kind of the scenes could have been altered around, could have been changed up. I think you needed a fight with Dolph Lundgren much more earlier than we did get compared to the ending. I think the other two kind of Universal Soldiers, the two that Dolph Lundgren kind of takes over, should have been a fight as well. And Dolph Lundgren, being this kind of crazy kind of madman, you would have figured he would be a bit more interesting to kind of, you know, deep dive into. You know, he lost his mind in Vietnam. You know, does that have any kind of play into the actual themes of the film? No, it does not. The Vietnam kind of angle that's used is only used for backdrop purposes. It's only used to remind the audience, hey look, Vietnam happened, this is what's happened, but there's no statement, there's no social commentary about war, about soldiers, about how disposable people are. You know, you've got this kind of reanimation soldier program, and there's no kind of social ideas about that. There's no kind of play into the ideas of what people are and how people, how disposable people are. If this was a John Woo movie, this would have been a massive play into the entire theme of the film and how we are disposable, how mad people can get under serious pressure, and how killing thousands can turn you into a madman. And I think we could have connected a lot more, and I think we could have got a lot more from Dolph Lundgren's character if the film chose to explore those ideas more. When he remembers who he is again, he's the same character he was when he was in Vietnam. He's just the same crazy guy cutting off people's ears and killing people for no reason. I think we could have got a lot more. You know, it's 15 years later. He's not curious about the world right now, the politics right now, what soldiers are right now, and kind of maybe try and recruit Van Damme's character, give him another chance kind of thing, you know, join my army, join my Universal Soldier army. There's so much potential that this film could have really utilized with those ideas, with these two main characters, and really explored them through this 2-hour film, but they chose not to do that. Instead, they chose to kind of blow their concept in the first kind of 30 minutes and do a rinse and repeat cycle of just action, stage action, drama, stage action, and that's about it, and that's unfortunate. Ultimately, Universal Soldier fails to capture what makes Van Damme such a unique on-screen presence. It fails to kind of go beyond the story that he tells. It tries to play it safe. It tries to do scene by scene. It offers you all the ingredients. It offers you the making of a kick-ass action film with a cheesy concept, great action moments, but doesn't go beyond anything it needs to go beyond, and unfortunately fails to kind of connect myself to the actual action, to first connect myself to the actual characters, and by the end, do I care? No, I do not. That's been my review, guys. Hope you enjoyed watching this video. In the meantime, guys, this is Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.